Hi, folks. It's the waning minutes of 7/11/11 here in July. And the BBC came to visit me about a month and a half ago. And they were in my studio. And they showed me the light of day. You know, I brought up that BBC had reported that Building 7 had blown up and fallen in on itself on 9/11, that big 47-story skyscraper. And that had then lied about the fact that they had announced that it had fallen. And the fellow laughed at me. And so I'm peer pressure driven, so I now agree with him that they never reported on Building 7 falling. Even though I was in the car that day after reporting on the radio and heard CBS News and NPR report that they were going to blow up Building 7. After they blew it up, they said it fell on its own, not hit by a plane, so I'm going to go with that. Just like George Bush said there were WMDs in Iraq. And of course, he lied about that, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. 2 plus 2 equals 4, but if the government and the mainstream corporate media doesn't say so, it doesn't. So 2 plus 2 equals whatever you say. And then the guy went on, I'd been interviewed by BBC 3 or 4 times over the years. He went on to say that he believed that they did find passports the day of 9/11 that had made it out of the clothing of the hijackers through the fireballs and the explosions, and then were found on the ground. He believes that. And so, you know what? I believe that too. In fact, I'm here now to come out against 9/11 truth. The Gulf of Tonkin to get us into Vietnam never happened. The staged attack on our ships, even though it's admitted that it was staged, didn't happen. 3 years ago, WikiLeaks released a Pentagon training manual for Army captains and above how to stage terror attacks. The Pentagon admitted it was real. They want to prosecute whoever released it. I don't care. They've had people, part of the cognitive dissonance program, admitted to by the White House regulations are Cass Sunstein to infiltrate 9/11 truth and then pose as leaders and then come out against 9/11 truth to basically create division and to freak people out. And just because Cass Sunstein said that, he also talked about arresting people that don't believe in man-made global warming. I think that's reasonable. That's freedom. Just like Obama launching wars without congressional approval or announcing executive orders to restrict guns without Congress. Well, who needs a Congress? I mean, oh, come on. So I'm really here today to apologize to everybody that months before 9/11, I saw the media preparing the public for staged terror attacks. And then I went on air and told people that they were probably going to blow up the World Trade Centers and blame it on their CIA asset, bin Laden. I want to apologize for that delusion even before the event. Also, I want to apologize, as I said earlier, that we found all these news clips, CNN, Fox, CBS, where the police say, get back, they're going to blow up Building 7. And then the owner, Larry Silverstein, says they gave the order to pull it and watched it come down. And I interviewed some of the 9/11 emergency people, the deputy head of emergency management, who said that there basically were bombs in Building 7. I apologize for doing that interview. And I want to go further because I'm trendy and cool. And of course, because the main tool of new wars and police state, staged terror, is a broken tool for the establishment. They're trying to rewrite history and rehabilitate it. So I want to help them here do that. I want to say that even though 6 of the 10 commissioners are in the Washington Post and the 9/11 Commission saying that it was a criminal cover-up, that the Pentagon covered up what happened, and it was a lie, and 2 of the 3 lawyers, including Mr. Farmer, have said that the whole thing was a lie and the government's covering up the truth. And even though PNAC and Dick Cheney called for staged terror attacks and said how they were needed to bring in their world government, and even though all these Obama advisors are calling for staged terror attacks and saying how great it would be, I'm going to ignore all of that. Because again, WMDs were in Iraq, and Leon Panetta, the new CIA director, well, former CIA director, now new defense head, was in Iraq today, and he did say that Saddam was involved in 9/11, and that's why the troops are there. It was admitted that Saddam wasn't involved, regardless of who you believe was involved, Al-Qaeda or our own government or corporate interest, rogue networks, that Saddam didn't do it. But now they say he was. See, they're rewriting history. They know that we were on the subject years ago, and that we had won in all the major polls. People knew the truth about 9/11 being an inside job. I'm sorry, being an outside job. We should all give our rights up to the TSA immediately. Continuing here, I shouldn't talk about Building 7. Don't discuss that NIST has changed the story 5 times. I shouldn't discuss the magic passports that are made out of stuff stronger than Superman. I mean, the planes crash in, everything's destroyed, but the passports are found that day. Not 1, but 2. That's completely reasonable. The bomb squibs going off on 7, cops saying get back, the firefighters being in the wreckage of 1 and 2 and saying there was molten metal, thousands of degrees hotter than jet fuels, like a quote volcano or foundry. I'm going to ignore that because I'm trendy and cool. Mayor Willie Brown coming out in the San Francisco Chronicle and saying he was given a warning not to fly. Old Condi Rice, his good friend, he was warned not to fly to New York that day. So were the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's all mainstream news. Just search Joint Chiefs of Staff. Canceled flights to New York day before. And I'm going to also ignore the fact that Bush on record lied and said they'd never been warned about plans to fly planes into buildings in those memos. But again, I want to apologize. Bush never lied to us, and I've talked to some nebulous experts now, mainly BBC reporters that believe passports were found magically. Not just survived, but then found in all the hundreds of millions of papers and debris and 3 foot of dust. And of course, Newsweek reported that Bush signed an order to launch the Afghan war the day before 9/11 for a week ahead. That's admitted, but it's no big deal that 44,000 U.S. troops, 18,000 British troops massed in and around Afghanistan the days before 9/11. No big deal. And of course, now they're running 500 billion of opium out of the country every year and admittingly having the troops grow the opium. But hey, that's freedom as well. And again, I want to apologize for saying Bush lied about WMDs. It was all true. Bush is totally truthful. Fast and Furious, the head of the ATF says the Justice Department's lying about shipping 30,000 guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. Governments never do stuff like that. Hitler didn't burn the Reichstag. Hitler didn't stage an attack on his own military base to start war with Poland and Gleiwitz. I'm going to be trendy. Northwoods, even though it's declassified, a Pentagon plan to stage 9/11 style attacks. It didn't happen. I already mentioned other events. Operation Ajax is declassified. U.S. government staged terror attacks. Operation Gladio. Going to ignore all that. I'm trendy. I apologize for all these years. Also Tuskegee, and now we learn all over the world the UN injecting kids, not just with syphilis, but with live polio. Well, they admit they did it, so it must be good. I mean, I'm trendy. I'm with the establishment. Of course, they lied about Fukushima, 5 of the 6 reactors blowing up and melting down, and they knew day one, but so what? 2 plus 2 equals whatever I'm told. And, they told us the recession ended in June of 2009. Now they admit we're in total depression. Geithner says it's going to be the worst thing in our lifetimes. Just pay the bankers trillions more in bailouts. Everything's fine. And, but to get serious here at the end of the day, the motives are billions a year in opium, hundreds of billions. Trillions in weapons sales, trillions in oil, total federalization, takeover of society, the presidency being turned into a dictatorship, not the president himself, but the office. All of this is the reality of what we're facing. And you're going to see all sorts of infiltration, all sorts of attempts at infighting, and that's because we're kicking the butt of the establishment. That's because they're losing control of the whole situation. That's because they can't stage terror attacks anymore because the first place we look is government. Just like my listeners were eyewitnesses to the underwear bomber being brought on the plane without a passport, and we talked about it for a month and a half in the State Department. Undersecretary Kennedy blew the whistle and said, yeah, we were ordered by a U.S. intelligence agency to get him on the plane, drugged out with a firecracker in his pants, right as they rolled out the naked body scanners. The jig's up. We're watching. We know. Try whatever rewrites of history you want. We know about government-sponsored terror, and the game is over. And no amount of people coming out and declaring that 9/11 truth are witches, or no amount of people declaring it's heresy and that they were part of a cult to question government's going to work. 2 plus 2 equals 4. End of game. You're losing. You know it. Free humanity's coming for you.